Welcome aboard! We will be your guides during this magical journey into the movies. It's the perfect job for us because we love the movies. It's showtime! Ready when you are, CB!
Action!
Welcome to Monoreel Radio, episode number 356. I'm Sean.
And I'm Jackie.
And we are here this week to review and discuss 102 Dalmatians as it celebrates its 25th anniversary. Admittedly, I have never seen this movie before. It is well documented that I was not a fan of the 101 Dalmatians live-action remake as a kid. I was certainly not a fan of it as an adult. And when this movie came out, I was sort of in that age range where you're aging out of certain Disney films, and this was not something that I was in the target demographic for, so I really had no interest in seeing it when it came out.
I honestly have no idea if I saw this in theaters or not, because I am totally conflating it with the live action 101 Dalmatians. I know for sure we saw that as a family in theaters. I remember that specifically. And this one, I thought that we might have, because I remember that song in the trailer, that I don't even want to call it a rap song, but that bow wow wow that they do. It was such an earworm. My dad used to sing it all the time. But that doesn't necessarily mean that we would have gotten in the car and ran to the theater to go see this one immediately. The other thing that I'm conflating is, and we're going to talk about this, I don't want to get too far ahead, but I remembered from the first trailer, you see Cruella, when she gets her comeuppance, land in that vat of molasses. And because something similar happens here, I'm totally conflating the two, and I have no idea if we saw this in theaters or not. Definitely the first one, but I don't know. I don't know. This could have been a first viewing for me, for all I know.
Well, was this movie worth the wait? Should they have done a third film? And quite honestly, just, I don't know. I got nothing else. That on top of many other
really
things.
At a loss with this one.
Yeah, that on top of many other things. Oh, so many things is what we are here to discuss today.
This episode is sponsored by Fierce Fox Co., designers of handmade silkscreen shirts. Fierce Fox has a t-shirt, tank top, hoodie, or crew neck for every fandom. So whether it's the movies or theme parks, princesses or villains, the MCU or Star Wars, everyone will find something they love. The designs range from subtle quotes from our favorite films to iconic characters we can wear proudly in so many different styles, such as sketchbook and concert tees. Listeners of Monoreel Radio can get a 20% discount using the code Monoreel at checkout. Visit fiercefoxco.com to check out all of the collections.
Dr. Pavlov has rehabilitated Cruella de Vil, who is now a lover of dogs. She is released from jail. However, if she commits her crimes again, her entire fortune is turned over to the dogs' homes of Westminster. Her valet, Alonzo, gifts her with a dog named Fluffy and locks all of her furs away. We meet Chloe, a probation officer, who is the owner of Dipstick from the first film, who is now the proud father to his own litter of puppies. We also meet the kind-hearted Kevin, who runs the struggling Second Chance Animal Rescue, which is facing eviction. Chloe is upset when she learns that she is the probation officer assigned to Cruella. However, Cruella surprises the public when she saves the Second Chance Rescue and begins to become London's biggest dog ally, although Chloe doesn't buy it. Chloe meets Kevin and questions his integrity for allowing Cruella into Second Chance. We also learn that the chime of Big Ben's bell undoes Dr. Pavlov's work, but his people do not wish to tell the public. Dipstick's puppies start to grow and develop their spots, except for one puppy named Oddball. One day, while attending a meeting with Chloe, Cruella hears Big Ben's chimes and begins to see spots everywhere, before eventually reverting back to her previous self. Infuriated by losing 3 years in jail, Cruella vows to seek revenge on Dipstick and his puppies and recruits furrier Jean-Pierre Lepelt to help her make a new coat. After saving Oddball, and after finding herself in trouble at the park, or I should say, After Oddball is saved when finding herself in trouble at the park, Chloe agrees to go on a date with Kevin, where he informs her that he is the only rescue in Westminster and would receive the entire DeVille fortune if she repeats her crimes. Meanwhile, Cruella, Lepelt, and Alonzo start collecting the 102 Dalmatians that she needs for her new coat. The next day, Second Chance receives a call regarding a box of abandoned puppies by the river, so Kevin sends his partner, Ewan, who is also a client of Chloe's, to retrieve them. The police arrive with a warrant to search Second Chance for stolen puppies, which they find as Alonzo had planted them, including those by the river. Chloe arrives to have Cruella arrested and sees that Kevin has been arrested and apparently has a record of dog napping, but he claims that he was set up. Cruella accuses Kevin of setting her up for her fortune, which leads everyone to believe her over him. Chloe is heartbroken, so Cruella invites her over for a dinner party and encourages her to bring Dipstick. At the party, Fluffy opens a hidden door exposing Cruella's plans to Chloe, all while Lepelt breaks into Chloe's home and steals Dipstick's puppies. Cruella then locks Chloe in this hidden room. Chloe is freed by Fluffy, while Kevin breaks out of jail with the help of his macaw, Wattlesworth. Chloe is heartbroken when she heads home to see that the puppies have been stolen. Kevin arrives and explains that his dog napping conviction was for freeing dogs from a lab. They make amends and find a ticket on the Orient Express to Paris that Lepelt had dropped in her home by mistake. They pursue Cruella but miss the train. However, Oddball and Wattlesworth do board the train, while Chloe and Kevin decide to take the next one. In Paris, the pups are taken to Lepelt's warehouse and workshop, where his employees are busy making other coats. Chloe and Kevin arrive, and through a comedy of errors and slapstick, Oddball stops Cruella as she is baked into a cake and apprehended. Alonzo delivers a check to Second Chance for £8 million. Remember, we are overseas, of course, and we see that Oddball has gotten her spots.
All right. I'm going to go rogue on you here and start with a question. What do we think of the premise and the choice to focus on, Pongo and Purdy's offspring and their new life and a retread with Cruella versus doing this with Anita and Roger and Pongo and Purdy and the puppies that they kept?
Well, completely spoiling my review, this entire movie's unnecessary, so let me get that out of the way. I think in the context of setting up a revenge story, I think it makes sense that you're going to focus on one of the puppies that got Cruella sent to jail. I think the backstory that they give her, the motivation that they give her, and the setup with Kevin, that actually all works very well. I think to have retreaded Pongo and Purdy, I think there's no reason for it, because then you're just doing the first movie again. I mean, that's exactly what you're doing here, but I think making it a revenge story and seeking it out on one of the puppies that put you in jail to begin with, of all of the things that this movie does wrong, that's one of the very few things that it does right.
Well, I guess that's the question I'm posing is, why a retread with Cruella and focus on the villain basically slipping back into her old ways, as opposed to keeping the main the same and changing out the villain? But if somebody's trying to kidnap puppies again, either way, it's still going to feel like a retread.
Yeah.
So I suppose that this was the lesser of two evils. Interestingly enough, they signed Glenn Close first. Like that was really the draw, was that they wanted to do another movie with her in the role of Cruella. And she, in turn, got Kevin Lima to direct this because they had somebody else attached to the project originally. And because they had worked together on Tarzan, she recommended him for it. So our dear beloved Kevin Lima does Goofy Movie, does Tarzan, and then this was his first live action film. So I'm glad he got to like cut his teeth on this, because without him transitioning to live action, we might never have Enchanted. But yeah, it grieves me to do this, because this movie is just so terrible and I don't want to trash his work. But like there, as soon as we started watching it, this was a rare one that we did get to watch together, sight unseen for the first time. I caught the name Dr. Pavlov, and I was like, are we really going with Pavlov's dog here? Is that what's going to happen? And is that how Cruella is going to slip back into her old ways? And I guess that does answer the question that I was, or what I couldn't remember at the top of the show. I don't think I ever saw this, because surely I would have remembered that.
It's the only question that's going to get answered for how in this entire conversation. Spoiler. Dr. Pavlov, so on the nose. I understand Pavlov's dog and salivating over the bell. That's the whole thing. There's
And just the fact that you have to do it with Big Ben by virtue of that you're in London and that's your bell, it feels very, very forced.
Also, Pavlov and Pavlov's dog was an experiment that was so intentional. Why would you have done a rehabilitation,
right,
where the work can be undone specifically by the chime of Big Ben? That's like having your rehabilitation center next to Penn Station and having the dogs or the subjects revert back when they hear a train whistle. It's
seriously
the dumbest thing on earth.
No, and it has no bearing on the real experiment. The real experiment was never undone. It was a food association. And then at the sound of a bell, because they associated it with food, dogs would start salivating. It's a behavioral thing.
Right.
He was never trying to undo behavior.
Right. This comes off more like they were hypnotized.
Exactly. And we were very critical about this when we reviewed the live action 101 Dalmatians, is that, I thought Cruella could have been a little bit more maniacal. And I think that what Glenn Close did with the character, she towed the line between cartoony and evil, but she didn't go enough one way or the other. It needed to be either completely zany and over the top, or it needed to be evil and ruthless like the Cruella that we know her to be. And it was neither. And you thought the performance was too over the top.
It was.
So here, they're steering into that even harder. Like the first time we see her, she's sitting in, I guess it's supposed to be like an institution that they're in, because it's not, well, she is supposed to be in jail because she's in a jumpsuit, which actually, that is one of the strengths of this movie. The costumes are still so on point, especially for her. This actually, believe it or not, got nominated for an Academy Award, but it was in the costuming department. It was not for anything else.
Yeah, the costumes are really the best thing about the movie.
But I love the jumpsuit that she's in. Like, it is prison jumpsuit, but make it fashion because she's Cruella. So that's cool. But she's in a room with like padded walls and the dogs.
Yeah.
So it's a little jarring. It's not jail. I guess it is supposed to read institution. And then we learn that she is up for parole because of the behavioral changes. And part of her probation is going to be, obviously she can't commit another crime, but they do raise the stakes because she will lose her entire fortune, or what's left of it, if she slips back into her old ways. So I like that they sort of raise the stakes with that a little bit.
Then we meet Chloe, probation officer. We meet Ewan, and that's how, through Ewan, we get introduced to Second Chance. and we get introduced to Kevin. And you start to question from the minute you meet him whether or not you can trust him or not, because Ewan has a probation officer, they have no money, he shows up with a big bag of dog food to feed the animals in the shelter, and immediately Kevin says, "Was this lifted?" And Ewan has to ensure that he did not steal the dog food. So I think it works that you do place a bit of doubt in these characters.
Yeah, because they are sort of giving Horace and Jasper vibes, right?
Yeah.
Like, they're not as dim-witted, clearly, but you don't know if you can 1000% trust them yet. But I do love Second Chance Rescue. I love the name of it. I love the premise of it. And I love the parallel that, you know, Kevin is trying to give the dogs a second chance, and that works well with Cruella having a second chance. To shift back to Chloe, she is far too biased to be Cruella's probation officer. I understand why, from her perspective, she doesn't want to take Cruella on as her charge because of her history with Dipstick. But Chloe is the one who is supposed to be rallying for, you know, the people that she's overseeing and trying to place them in jobs so that they don't slip back into their old ways. And she's naysaying Cruella from the beginning.
It's literally the definition of a probation officer, right? Is to make sure that your clients on probation remain solid members of society. And you are supposed to root for them. You're not supposed to root against them. I understand that she's a dog owner, specifically that she owns Dipstick, but why can she question or blame Kevin, who's about to become evicted and leave all of these animals homeless to face God knows what, for taking on a wealthy donor like Cruella, who at the very least, even if it's just temporary, can give these dogs a home. I understand she ends up being right at the end of the day, so she's vindicated, but they're not doing a good job setting her up as a good probation officer, because on the one hand, she let Ewan go without a pay stub, so it's like, I mean, I guess you're establishing that she's actually just a horrible probation officer, and that she's just going to be using bias and judgment on every single person that walks in the door.
Which is also ironic because they're trying to set her up as a good person by being lenient with one of the people that she's working with. But then they double down on it when Chloe goes to see Second Chance, because she's there for Ewan, I believe, then finds out that he's working with Cruella. She's given Second Chance like this big makeover. She's putting her money into it. And then she starts to question Kevin. Why would you do this? Why would you let her around dog? Like, you're supposed to be her biggest cheerleader because everybody else would be naysaying her. I mean, maybe it's also different. Like, maybe England doesn't have the huge recidivism problem that we do in this country, and they're a little bit more keen and open-minded to take in people and employ people that are on probation. But it just doesn't make sense that Chloe is Cruella's biggest naysayer.
It's not what she's supposed to be. Her job. She's failing at her job if she's hoping for a failure in one of her clients.
I do love the makeover that Cruella gives to Second Chance. I like that she does slip back into her old ways in a sense of taking what she knows from the fashion world and applying it here and using her name for good. We see this via montage to a newly lyricized Cruella de Vil. These lyrics are so on the nose, questioning why she's able to do this and what her new motives are. And the visuals that they're cutting in are her doing these photo shoots with the dogs, and the headlines that she's, on the path to redemption. So it does work as far as, her really trying to do the right thing and reform herself. And like I said, now putting a spotlight on Second Chance because this is what she knows is being in the public eye. So that all works. But like this song, man, it's so distracting.
It's almost distracting enough where you don't question why Big Ben matters. This whole thing comes out of nowhere. It's unmotivated, and it is never explained. It's never explained why it happens. It's just there out of convenience because London.
Right, because Pavlov realized that his subjects were reverting, and then they just tried to keep it hush-hush, and then we see it happen to Cruella because she goes to Chloe's office. I will say that much. They did do a very good job of setting that up in the beginning when Ewan meets with her, and he's like, how do you even hear yourself think in here? And she goes to close the window, and we see Big Ben right outside of the window. So naturally when Cruella goes in there, but it just doesn't really explain why that, like, yes, Pavlov realized that that's what happened to the people that he trained, but why does it happen to her? Or why is it happening to anybody? That's never explained. It's just explained that he knows and he realized that it's happening.
Right. But she hears the bells. She reverts. Do you know what else is really concerning and confusing to me? How many fashion designers really are cool with killing puppies?
Exactly.
How is she able to find another one that's willing to do it?
Seriously. We had talked about how that was such a strength of 101 Dalmatians doing the live action remake in the 90s and making it contemporary and working so well because PETA was such a thing. It was such a reflection of what was actually going on in pop culture at the time because PETA was taking on the fashion industry. So 4 years later, you're doing another movie. And to do a retread of the fur coat, I mean, I guess in the sense of Cruella slipping back into her old ways and that she never got her Dalmatian coat and now that's what she's after and she's just going to double down and have the tunnel vision for that. It works for the villain, but this is where I question why just do the retread. Maybe there's something else because as a society, we've changed at this point. You don't see fur as much anymore. You don't see animal cruelty. I mean, I'm not suggesting that it doesn't exist. It absolutely still exists and it's horrible. But we are so much more aware now. And even then in 2000, it just doesn't make sense that they wouldn't have tried to focus on another issue. The other thing, I didn't even get fashion designer at first from JP Lepelt. He was giving WWE.
He looks like something out of Zoolander.
Yeah, yes. And I bet that's what they were going for.
I don't recall which one came first. It's irrelevant. The whole thing's irrelevant, though. Yeah, I understand if you're doing Cruella de Vil, this is what the entire character is. But to your point, you're not doing a period piece. You're making it modern contemporary. So the entire motivation of that character, even by 2000 standards, is out the window.
Like they could have done animal testing.
They could have done anything.
Like Cruella wanted, instead of wanting the Dalmatian coat, she could have needed something that they were testing on animals first. And that's where you get the animal cruelty channeled through her. And she can still be the big bad hiring people out to do her bidding. And that's where you send the message through of you're not supposed to, you obviously shouldn't be doing animal tests. It could have been shampoo. Instead of fashion and fur, we're doing a hairline now and they're testing it on animals. There you go.
Which at the time was something that people were very conscious of. So you could have done it and you could have made it appropriate for the time. Also, here's the other thing. You want to seek revenge on Dipstick? I'm fine with that. The motivation makes sense. So it makes sense that you want to go after his puppies. But now you're just going to round up 102 Dalmatians from whomever. They're not the same family. They're not the same litter. You're not even tying it back to finding the litters from the other puppies who put you in jail. So now you're just taking random dogs from whomever, and it doesn't make sense.
And you also have your butler helping you this time. You don't even have henchmen. So now we get, as Cruella is slipping back into her old ways, it's cut against the romance that is brewing between Chloe and Kevin. Their unofficial first date.
Yeah, my favorite part of the movie.
They're in a park. They take the dogs out, and instead of just having, a park meet cute, which I guess you're not going to do because then that feels like a total retread of Roger and Anita. They go to a Punch and Judy show, but it's a kids show. The entire audience is kids. They didn't know that the other person was going to be there. So like for Kevin especially, why are you as a man by yourself taking your dogs to this show around a whole bunch of kids? Especially when you're also on probation and we don't know yet what it's for. I'm not suggesting that Kevin did something truly, truly horrible, but like, why here? Why is this the place that they randomly ran into each other?
Because we have to have the balloon rescue. Oddball needs to get tangled in balloons and lifted off the ground for Kevin to rescue.
You could have done this anywhere else that didn't involve shoving them into this tiny space with children in the audience. It could have been in the park. It could have been the whole conceit is that Oddball wants spots. And that's usually where things go awry. You could have had somebody painting out in the park and then she goes to try and get the black paint, or he goes to get the black paint.
Or here's an idea. You could have done it in a way where you Easter egged and paid tribute to other Disney films. It could have been somebody who looked like Bert with the chalk drawings.
Oh, that would have been so nice.
Because, you thought to put Tony's in the movie. Except you put the movie in the movie. This is where this whole thing starts to not become a sequel. This becomes parody. Chloe and Kevin leave all of their animals together at Chloe's apartment to watch each other.
Which is a terrible idea.
And the dogs turn on Lady and the Tramp to all watch together. So, these two go to Tony's, and they literally do a shot-for-shot remake of the Lady and the Tramp meatball scene with Chloe and Kevin, which is problematic enough if you are not cutting it against the original movie, which is what they're doing. This entire thing comes off like a goof.
I don't mind that the dogs are watching Lady and the Tramp. I actually thought that was kind of cute, especially because we do hear the entire old Disney intro play out, and they push the VHS tape into the TV. That all works. It just is it's not so much a wink and a nod. It's very overt. But I thought that was cute. My bigger issue with this whole thing is nobody in their right mind eats spaghetti on a first date. Especially when you're wearing white. It's messy. There is way too much that could go wrong with it if you spill some on yourself. Nobody, and that's just spillage. Forget about the sloppy eating. There's no way to eat spaghetti nicely. Nobody does that on a first date.
This is your problem. This is the problem you have with this entire thing. This is when you zeroed in on on any of the things they did wrong. This was the thing that bothered you.
Yeah, because nobody does this.
I was embarrassed
that is
watching
so
this.
risky to eat spaghetti on a first date.
I was embarrassed to watch this. I was embarrassed for the people on screen watching this because it's so awkward.
I mean, they didn't fully commit because they're eating off of two different plates. So I was like, thank God they didn't have a piece of spaghetti between them. And I guess that's what would have put it over the top, where I was embarrassed as well. So I guess kudos for exercising restraint in that regard. But in the grand scheme of this whole movie, this is minutia compared to some of the other egregious things that they do.
Oh, you mean like when they're walking home and Alonzo is hanging out of a window, not but 10 feet above their eyesight, with a sack full of dogs, and they don't notice it.
Or hear. It's not like the dogs go quietly.
I don't have anything else to say on this. It just comes off dim-witted.
I will say that the way that they frame Kevin does make sense.
Yes.
Because if part of the deal was that Cruella not only loses her fortune if she violates her parole, it goes to second chance. So he has a motive.
Right.
It totally makes sense. But instead of like stumbling into that, I wish Cruella had set that up more to frame him.
Yeah, I mean, it is the smartest thing that the movie does, which compared to the rest of the film doesn't say much, but it is a very strong motivator. It's a strong motivation, and you're right. Like, it seems like she sort of just trips and falls into it. And Cruella is too smart for that. That's the thing.
Yes.
She's too smart for that.
Exactly. And instead, when he does get arrested, it's because he sent Ewan out to go check on a bunch of puppies that were reported, strays that they could take in. And it's like, that's plausible. Like, you don't think this guy gets calls to rescue all the time? So why, just because Dalmatians were bought in, do you just automatically assume that he has anything to do with this? I mean, yes, of course, they were planted. This was all part of taking him down, but the police are the biggest dimwits in this, that they're just going right along with it.
Well, no, if they have a warrant to search and they find the missing dogs, they're going to arrest him.
But they don't know that those were the missing dogs.
Well, they had collars on.
All right, I'll give you that.
So the police technically did the right thing. Until the point in time, though, where they put him in his cell with the bird and his dogs.
Right.
You don't allow somebody who's been arrested to bring their possessions, much less live animals, unless I suppose it's a service animal, which these are not, into the cell with them.
So now Cruella sort of capitalizes on Kevin being out of the picture. She knows that Chloe is vulnerable because she was starting to fall for him. So she invites her to a dinner at her house, and she wants her to bring all the dogs with her. So this is going to be the final capture. I like that we get a wink and a nod to the animation because all of the dinner guests look like their dogs.
Yeah.
So I thought that was kind of cute. And then Cruella gets exposed for what she's trying to do.
Yeah, because Fluffy opens up the door, right? The hidden door. And Chloe goes in with Dipstick. She's upset that she sees that the furs were not thrown away, and then she sees a design for a coat. Not for anything, but I understand that what we're seeing is the new design. How does Chloe know this is the new design? We know that this is what Cruella was planning to do in the first movie, so it's not like it's dated.
Right.
It's not like it's a dated draft. You don't know when that's from. I mean, yes, again, this is an instance where Chloe sort of fails upward and Cruella does the villain thing. I'm gonna tell you everything I'm about to do. Mwah! Shut the door.
Yeah, let me spend 2 minutes on a monologue.
And me, Chloe, is just going to stand here, slack-jawed, and go, how could you? And just wait to be locked in the room.
Yeah. Not great. Really not great.
How about this? She's in that room for all of, I don't know, maybe 2 minutes before Fluffy sets her free. She gets back to her apartment. It's ransacked. She's heartbroken to see that the puppies are stolen. And within about 5 seconds, Kevin just arrives because he's been broken out of jail thanks to the macaw. She doesn't question what he's doing there.
Exactly, because she doesn't know that what he did was not, his crime was wrong place at the wrong time. Like, of course, this man was arrested for freeing dogs. He was doing something well-intentioned, just didn't go about it the right way, and he got busted for it. But all she knows is that he's got a record, and now he's showing up at her house.
And she's like, oh, good, you're here.
Yeah. And now, it's kind of a retread of what happens in the first one is the humans are too dim-witted to figure it all out, so the dogs have to take it upon themselves. And we get the Twilight bark again. And then they piece together that they're heading to Paris, so they go down to the train station. This scene with Oddball on the tracks was a lot. We were very critical of the first one for having to toe the line, and not, Disney not wanting to show dogs in really perilous situations, or really not going over the top and making Cruella too cruel, because what she wants to do is truly awful. And I had said that back when we reviewed the first one, or the animated version, is that this is what makes Cruella one of the worst villains of all times, is because she wants to kill puppies, innocent little creatures. And the animation makes it fun and over the top, but when you put that in a real world scenario, it does put things in a different light. And that's where, Glenn Close has to balance out her performance and make it zany so that you don't go too dark with a film like this. But I do feel like 102 Dalmatians did try to go very much darker than 101 did, with scenes like this where Oddball's on the train tracks, or like
when she's hanging out of gutter out the window.
Yeah. And later on, when they're putting Cruella through the cake baking, she throws Oddball under the blades. That it's tough to watch, especially just because the end of this is it's just so not good.
No, let's start with LaPelt has a staff.
Yeah, at this little cottage sweatshop in the middle of the countryside.
He has a staff. How many people are okay with this?
Yeah.
What is happening in Europe?
Yeah.
That we don't know about.
And they don't bat an eye when all of these puppies are coming in.
They're like, all right. They don't care. And where does the bakery come from?
Yeah, because this is supposed to be in the middle of nowhere.
But how do you have a workshop that also has a bakery in it that you don't own? I guess they're implying that this is an underground workshop. However, this man also has a fashion show and a fashion line, so he's not doing a good job hiding in plain sight.
This is like Sweeney Todd if you're talking about a covert operation like this with a bakery at the front of it.
I'm being, at this point, I defer to you. I don't have any other notes on this film.
No, I don't have too many either. It's just that, So they start escaping because the macaw that thinks it's a Rottweiler starts opening up the floor. And then once the humans arrive, they start passing the dogs up through the hole. And then very similarly to the animation and the live action, you're taking them out in groups at a time. None of the staff that's sitting there at their sewing machines see these dogs going by. You don't set Lapelt up as a very harsh boss where these people are afraid to do so much as look up from what they're working on. So to get this many dogs through, when they're walking right past them, like, yes, they are concealed by coat racks, but they're going right past, like, you didn't even feel that going by you. It really doesn't make sense. And then, like I said, this is where I really thought I had seen this, because in the first one, they have Glenn Close fall into a vat of molasses. And here, she looks tarred and feathered in the first one, but here, it's Kate. She goes through the eggs, the flour, everything. And then they do bake her. So you think that would be enough to kill her going through a hot oven. But no, she just comes out wrapped in it. She even comes out in the pan. The pan unclasps, and she's got the cake on like it's a dress.
She doesn't even have a sunburn.
It's just so bad. But I suppose the moral of the story is she goes away again. Her money goes to Second Chance Rescue, and really nothing bad ever comes from a dog rescue getting that much money.
Let's talk about the cast, and we're only going to talk about the new cast. Ian Grufford, or Grufford, sorry if I'm butchering that name, sir. He plays Kevin. He's so much better in Fantastic Four. And spoiler for when we do Fantastic Four, he's the better Reed Richards. Sorry, not sorry.
Ooh.
Sorry, not sorry.
You're going to make a lot of friends that way.
I got enough. At this point, I'm just purging. I'm downsizing. I like this character. He's probably the best character in the movie. It's a shame that he was wasted in 102 Dalmatians.
Yeah, I mean, I do love that Second Chance means so much to him, not just because of the dogs, but because he too was arrested. This is his second chance. So I love the parallel there as well. And that's also why he's willing to see, or at least try to see, the good in Cruella, because he also got a second chance, so he can sort of sympathize with her. I actually like him. Do I think that he's leading man material in this? No, but I do like him as kind of the aw shucks trying to court Chloe.
Chloe, played by Alice Evans. This is such a poorly written character that it could have literally been anybody.
Yeah. She doesn't even do enough where you're rooting for them as a couple, because while I buy the aw shucks from Kevin, it's like, what do you see in her?
I don't get
There's
it.
not much there. Forget her bias where, it makes her not good at her job. There's just nothing really too endearing about her, other than that she loves her dogs. They just made her the stereotype. They turned her into the trope, I hate to say it, of the single lady. She's a cat lady, but with dogs.
Ben Crompton plays Ewan. I like this character. I like that he's another aw shucks, and I like that they do subvert the expectations, because you don't actually ever trust him, and yet he never turns on Kevin, which is, I think, what I expected him to do the entire time.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Because he gets the aw shucks because he's trying. He has very limited means, but he's not doing anything bad to get by. He's actively trying to stay on the straight and narrow.
Gerard Depardieu plays Lapelt. This character is so bad. It's not his fault. I think he did what he was supposed to do with it, which was just make Frenchie say words funny. Like, he can't say puppy. So
It's
he has
poopy.
So he has to call it poopy because we have to make 5-year-olds laugh. Why is it that in the early 2000s, it was the thing to make the French not be able to pronounce words properly? They do it in the Pink Panther, bug, which came after this. Why was this a thing, and why did anybody ever think it was funny?
It honestly, it is a little bit offensive to the French because you are almost giving them the dumb foreigner stereotype, which is not okay.
It wasn't funny then, it's not funny now, and I don't know why people relied on it.
No, and there was so much more fun that you could have had with this character because he is so eccentric. Like, you could have made him the male Cruella, where he's just like an outrageous fashion designer. And instead, I said it before, he reads wrestler to me. In the wardrobe choice with the leopard print, and then he's got like this really weird mullet happening with a ponytail. Like, he looks like a wrestling character.
Because he looks like Randy the Ram.
Sure.
He looks like Mickey Rourke's character in The Wrestler.
Yes.
That's who he looks like.
Yes. And there were so many different things that you could have done to give him, even just aesthetically, where he would have read eccentric fashion designer. But you could have just had so much more fun and really given us some good comedy through this avenue, and you just totally missed the mark.
Well, there's no good. They never started with good comedy. Where all of a sudden they decided they were going to find it? They didn't have good comedy from the start. Final thoughts. I'm never watching this again. It's in the top 5 worst films we've ever seen for this show. Yeah. I'm never watching it again, and I don't have anything else to say about it.
No, and we've been hitting some real clunkers lately. This, Chicken Little, dang. Yeah, there's really not a lot of redeeming qualities about this movie. This is one of those ones that I really wasn't looking forward to having to watch a second time, and it pains me to say that because I love Kevin Lima so much, and he cares so much about his Disney movies. I hate to trash something that I'm sure meant so much to him, and especially because of the relationship that he developed with Glenn Close. Like, I'm sure this was such a big opportunity for him. And I appreciate what they thought they were doing or what they attempted to do by giving us a second Cruella movie and making her a little bit darker and less zany than the first one. But I really wish that since they bothered, they had gone more down the road of what they did with Emma Stone's Cruella and actually, make this the fall from grace, make her darker. It didn't have to be such a retread of the live action 101 Dalmatians. You could have taken elements of the zaniness of the character, the way that Glenn Close portrayed her, and made her dark, because now she's been scorned again. I wish that they had almost like gone for the genre flip and pulled in some horror elements here. And that might have been cool. But instead, it's a straight retread of all the things that are bad about the first live action remake of 101 Dalmatians.
We want to know what you have to say about this film. You can let us know on all forms of social media at Monoreel Radio, or you can send us an email, monoreelradio@gmail.com. News of the week is coming up, but first, a quick break. Jackie is an independent travel advisor helping families plan personalized vacations and create unforgettable memories in the most magical place on Earth. Planning for a Disney vacation can be stressful, but it doesn't need to be when you're assisted by a travel specialist who will work with you to customize the perfect vacation for you and your family. Jackie will help you determine which parks to visit on each day, ensure you know the ins and outs of essential tools like the My Disney Experience app, assist with booking dining reservations, lightning lanes, and other enhancements like ground transportation and travel insurance. Most importantly, Jackie will share all of her favorite hacks so that you can get the most out of your vacation. Visit monoreelradio.com/travel to start making magic now.
Hey everyone, this is Brian down here in South Florida. I'm about 2 hours south of Disney, and when it comes to planning vacations, Jackie's the way to go. When it came to booking my family vacation for my 2-year-old daughter and my wife, you know, like everybody, I immediately went to the internet, started scouting prices. Just out of curiosity, I reached out to Jackie. She mentioned she was booking vacations for many people. So I gave her my list, my itinerary. She looked it over, and when she came back to me, she gave me her recommendations in regards to the parks. However, she also had new pricing associated with it. I've learned that going on my own doesn't necessarily mean that I'll be getting the best pricing. On top of that, it was stress-free, so all my vacations in the future are going to be through her because I don't have to think about it. She plans it. I give her some information in regards to what I want to do and create the itinerary for me. She's a market expert. She advised on which rides to attack first, which restaurants I should schedule on what day, and how to properly allocate my time to maximize my vacation. It was an amazing process. Thanks, guys. Talk to you soon.
Let's talk about Disneyland Paris, because most of what's happening domestically is the kickoff to the holidays, so we've been talking about that for a while. So nothing really new coming here.
I feel like this came out of nowhere, though. It was just like, you know, they teased that they had some announcements to make, and then just hit after hit.
Yeah. Let's start with the Regal View Restaurant and Lounge. They are calling it a redefined dining space, but what is interesting about this whole thing, it is the first ever bar at Disneyland Paris. So Disneyland Paris carried over the tradition of not having bars in what is their version of Magic Kingdom, right?
But you can get champagne on Main Street. That's a thing.
But they didn't have a bar. Now they've
Right.
got a bar. So following the trend of, we opened up a bar, a legitimate bar with Beak and Barrel at the Magic Kingdom, you are now doing something simple. It's a whole dining space, but now they have a bar, Disneyland Paris. Disney's Cascade of Lights. This is a nighttime spectacular that is opening, and they're not only going to have aerial drones, they're going to have an aquatic drone system.
I would have never even thought that was a thing, but that's going to be pretty cool.
I mean, listen, I loved characters in flight at Disney Springs, but have you noticed that Disneyland Paris has consistently gotten the best drone show?
Yeah.
Right? They did it for their 30th. They had that great drone show. Hopefully it's sort of a sign of things that may come to Walt Disney World. Something that is not coming to Walt Disney World, as far as we know, certainly not in the near future, is the World of Frozen, opening now at Disneyland Paris on March the 29th. I'll just let you take it. I'm going to let you take it.
I was floored. I was absolutely floored. This just, you know, I think it's fair to say that we have voiced our opinion about some unfavorable things that Disney has been doing in the past years, but this is just, it was so reinvigorating to see this world brought to life. And, you know, we know that they've done Arendelle before, but to see how they brought it to life for Disney Paris, it looks absolutely phenomenal. And then the Olaf, I can't even call it an animatronic. They made Olaf. They freaking made Olaf able to walk around. It blows anything that they've done with Star Wars and the little bots, I'm sorry, out of the water. I was like flabbergasted when I saw this thing. I mean, they made him, even Josh Gad is like over the moon that they brought his character to life in this way. I want one. I have a big birthday coming up. I don't want to just go see it in Paris. Like, I want one. It looks just so cool. And I was like, this is true Disney magic. Like, this is when they spend the money and invest it the right way. this is what they're capable of, and it's just so incredible.
Thank you so much for joining us this and every week on Monoreel Radio. Monoreel Radio will always be free, but there are many ways that you can support the show. Please give us a rating wherever you listen to podcasts. Join the conversation on social media at Monoreel Radio on all major platforms. Share your favorite episodes with family and friends who may enjoy them. And of course, book your next trip with Jackie. Links to everything can be found at monoreelradio.com. We all get one story. Make yours a magical one.
On behalf of Monoreel Radio, we'd like to thank you for joining us. We'll see you at the movies, the stuff dreams are made of.